Cool. Alrighty. Oh,
Put that phone on silent, boy.
Earth Baby Party is in 2 hours.
Yes.
Alright, everybody's phones on silent. Nobody's ringing. Alright. What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the Passion Project. My name is Daniel. I am your host for this amazing podcast. And with me is my guest, KevSpeakTruth, the one and only, the man that speaks only the truth.
I tried.
Woo! How's it going? I like your outfit today. Look good.
Thank you.
Even with your hair on the side too. That's pretty. That's a vibe.
Trying to sauce it up a little bit.
Nice. So how you been? How's it been for you?
It's been good, man. Just yesterday had the So Far Sounds Fort Myers show. Went really well. Really happy with how that went out. Thomas, or Takeoff Burford, and I went out there and did a really good job. Just coming off of that, getting ready for this Truth Be Told show on the 22nd. Just trying to push the project as much as possible.
That's exciting, and we'll talk more about that whole event and your album that's coming out later in the episode.
Deal.
So now we're gonna get started with. I want to introduce you for those who do not know who KevSpeakTruth is. He is an artist. He is a producer. He is a entrepreneur now. Yeah. Running his own merch and everything. So Kev, go ahead and give us a little bit of background of yourself. Your name, how you started.
Okay. So my name is Kev. I go by KevSpeakTruth. Most people call me Kev. I started making music. I mean, music's been a big part of my life since I was a kid, like really young. I grew up in a church and grew up doing a lot of theater and just being around the arts in general. So music was a really big part of that very early. I have been making music, though, professionally, I would say, since I was 17, 18 years old now, so about 10 years. I started initially just writing poetry and singing, and then that kind of evolved to rapping. And over time, kind of wanting to learn more about how everything was made, I started learning production. And ever since then, it's just been like this like never-ending, like, oh, there's this part of this and this part of that I want to learn. So, yeah, it's kind of how I got to where I'm at and kind of how I got to be KevSpeakTruth. But yeah.
Nice. Did the music run in the family?
Not really. I'm pretty much the only one in the family, or I was the only one in the family that like wanted to do music. Everyone else in my family was very service oriented, meaning like all my aunts and uncles are like firefighters and EMTs and cops and stuff. So that was, they went more into like public service, and I just always knew like that's cool, but I don't know if that's for me. I just knew I liked being in front of people. I liked performing. I liked entertaining. So very early I knew that was what I wanted to do. But now I think I know my little cousin Adam, not so little because he's like 20-something now, but he also does music. But I'm pretty sure it's pretty much just me and him. And like before that, it was just me. So.
Oh wow, that's cool. What does Adam do? Does he do the same thing? Like hip-hop?
He works as a in-home aide for people with severe mental disabilities. So
nice.
People who are like very far on the spectrum, like who are autistic or nonverbal. He kind of just like is an in-home aide for that. That's like his main thing. And then he also has his music stuff on the side too. So
that's cool.
Yeah,
cool.
Shout out Adam.
Hey, we
shout out King Ace.
Appreciate you for helping out the people out there.
Yeah,
giving back.
Kid.
So
good
that's
kid.
Cool. That's cool. So let's go down to how KevSpeakTruth started.
Okay, deal.
So I know you said you've done music for a while.
Yeah.
You've been dabbling mainly in the hip hop industry.
Yeah.
What was the idea of KevSpeakTruth?
So the name came from, initially I used to do poetry as a kid. I've been writing poetry since I was like 10 years old. And when I was in high school, I used to write poetry under this name, Manifest Your Own Truth. And it came from basically a situation in which like one of my mom's partners was really abusive and would basically like, and it wasn't her fault. She suffered from PTSD, which is what I realized like later on in life, like that's what was going on. But
of course,
make a long story short, she just struggled a lot with like whether or not my mom was telling the truth or whether or not we were telling the truth, because my mom was my mom and she didn't always tell the truth. So that constant like berating moment of like someone telling you like you're not telling the truth, you're not being honest, I kind of like was like, okay, well, I'm just gonna be, if I'm not truthful in your eyes, I'm just gonna manifest my own truth. I'm just gonna like define truth for myself.
Okay.
And so that was kind of where the poetry started, and then eventually when I started getting back into like actually making music, because I took some time away from it in high school trying to like get a scholarship and do like the normal people thing. When I came back to it, I was like, okay, like I love the idea of Manifest Your Own Truth, but that's like a long name, and like that isn't really like an artist name. So I kind of just came up with KevSpeakTruth as like a intermediary between that and like a new name and like previous names I'd had. And so I've kind of been rolling with that pretty much ever since.
Nice.
So yeah, that's how I got the name.
Because I'm sure like just being called Manifest Your Truth would have been a very.
It just would have been weird.
Welcome to the stage, Manifest Your Truth.
Yeah. I just don't think it would have. I don't think it would have resonated. But and it also, I think, like I said, it was kind of like an actualization of, well, now I'm speaking my truth, you know, in every sense of the word. So, and then a part of that is also like the idea that like, you know, it's Kev, so KEV, but you could like sub out that Kev for you, you know, or anything else you wanted to. That's a 3-letter word, but you specifically, just to kind of remind people like it's not just about me speaking my truth. It's about, you know, the fans and just people that I meet being able to express themselves unapologetically.
Well, that's awesome. Well, I'm sorry to hear about what happened in the past.
No.
Life gets very hard for all of us, and
definitely.
I do feel like for a lot of artists, our past really helps build and mold our creativity and our artist self. Yeah. Especially when you're telling a story, because you're able to learn from your history, your downs and your ups, and be able to create the type of person that you want to be to display without feeling that judgment from people. You know, because a lot of people relate to certain situations that you're probably into.
Yeah, and I think that's really like where really like the core of what KevSpeakTruth is about, is just being able to be as authentically raw as I can be, so that way people can see some of themselves in what I do, and then that way also I can be receptive to different kinds of people and new thoughts and new like just everything. I'm very much into like learning, whether that's learning through like reading or through watching videos, but I love to learn most through interacting with people, and I feel like music gives me the ability to do that and get to know people on a different level that I probably wouldn't get to. So,
nice.
Yeah.
So now KevSpeakTruth.
Yeah.
He does hip hop.
Yeah, dude. Yeah.
He does a little bit of different things now, I've noticed.
Yeah. So I would say initially I started off as a hip hop artist, but I think the reason that I went hip hop was just because, number one, I was a huge fan of it, but there was this like sense of like masculinity and like power and strength that came from being a hip hop artist. Like, and I wasn't always the most confident person as a kid. So I feel like going towards hip hop was me trying to develop or create like a faux sense of confidence. And then through that, eventually I realized, okay, yeah, like I can do this. Like I like rhyming. I like doing stuff. But then it was also like, you know, I've always loved singing. I've always loved doing that. So like, why don't I do that more? And I've realized a lot of that was also confidence, was just like a fear of like not doing it well and people making fun of me or whatever. And eventually I was like, you know what? Like I just got to kind of do it. Like I've been singing my whole life. I might as well just try. And so from there, even my first song I ever put out, Midnight Passenger, it's not my first song I ever put out, but like my first song on streaming platforms, I should say, it's me singing. You know what I mean? It's mainly like a singing kind of song. So that was kind of always a part of it. And then over time, it was like, okay, how do I incorporate this into the hip hop? And then once I started singing in hip hop, I was like, well, this isn't really hip hop now. Now this is like pop, or this is more like R&B, or this is more like alternative or whatever. So even now, like the way I would describe what I do is more like alternative hip hop or alternative rap. The example I give people is like, if Post Malone and The Weeknd and J. Cole had a baby, like that would be what I do. Like
I could see
that.
that.
I can give you the more like singing kind of stuff. I can give you the more like lyricism, and I can give you something in between. You know what I mean?
That's awesome.
So I think that's kind of how it came about.
I feel like it's very different too out here especially within Southwest Florida, because you know Florida is very well known for trap music.
Yep. Yeah.
And so hearing your style, it's like a completely different feel for people, you know. You get a mixture of maybe a little bit of trap, but you get some like R&B, you get some pop in it, and like now you're doing like crazy rock music, which is crazy. It's so unique for you because you're basically challenging and diversity your creative self.
Right. And that's a big part of it, is wanting to challenge myself, wanting to make sure that I'm not making the same thing over and over again. I feel like when you're I don't know for other mediums of art, but I know when you're a producer, when you're a songwriter, there's like this phenomenon that like you're gonna write the same song like more than once. Like you're gonna write or the same idea of a song more than once. And maybe that 15th time you've written that song, it's the best. Like that's the one you were trying to write 14 songs ago, you know?
Nice.
So I think a lot of it has been me trying to challenge myself to write these different kinds of music and also learn what I can pull from those different kinds of music into what I do. So, you know, learning more about alternative rock and the way that that's written, like that's changed how I write my pop songs or how I write my R&B songs, you know, like, so it's a lot of just wanting to challenge myself. And then also I think I take pride in being able to be like a musical chameleon of sorts in that way that I can like virtually do anything that I want. Or if I'm put in a situation where I have to work with an artist, there's not really a genre that I can't give input in or be able to like actually have an impact on. So yeah,
that's cool. So when it started with trying to build this craft for yourself,
yeah,
where I'm assuming there were a lot of a lot of difficult things to just not only obviously figure out how to record yourself,
yeah,
but obviously they're still learning how to write music, how
Right.
to write in a certain way, and just even making a beat, you know? Because I mean, I'm assuming you didn't start creating your own beats when you started, right?
So no, initially it was like most people, it was me going on YouTube and looking
YouTube
up
beats.
YouTube type beats and stuff. But like you said, you know, it kind of was just over time me realizing like, oh, I want to be able to have more of an input on this. I want to be able to have more creative control, more creative expression, and
an authentic sound, too.
Right, an authentic sound, something that just didn't feel like. Yeah, you may hear in my stuff, you may hear like I said, some people I mentioned earlier, you may hear little pockets of things that remind you of them, but it's just enough that it's familiar, but it's not the same. And I think that's what great music is. I think when you can give people something that they're like, why haven't I heard this? Or rather, I've heard this before, but I haven't heard it this way. And then they're like, wait, why haven't I heard this? I should have already heard this if I'm a fan of this kind of music, you know? There was a situation last night, actually, where I So Far Sounds, there was an artist named Carling Witt, who is incredible, like probably one of the most talented singer-songwriters I've heard in my life.
Nice.
And I was just blown away by just her level of songwriting and the talent and stuff. And it was a similar situation. I was like, wow, I'm a fan of this because I feel like I should already be a fan of it because it's stuff that I already like, you know? So
Nice.
That's been a lot of it is just trying to give people those different tastes, those different varieties, and also just not pigeonholing myself into being like, oh, like I only do this one thing, because at this point I don't know what my thing is. You know what I mean? Like I haven't achieved a massive level of success yet. So it's all like kind of like just throwing paint under the wall.
Yeah, and you're still growing, you're still learning,
right.
still figuring out who KevSpeakTruth
Right.
is, regardless of even if you found your sound now, you're
Yeah.
still figuring out what you could sound like in the next 5 to maybe 10 years.
Exactly. And that was kind of like why I started learning how to produce and how to engineer and everything, was like, okay, I can do the typical hip hop thing, right? I can do like, or I'm gonna rap and do whatever, but how do I incorporate these other elements, these other, just not even just music, just palettes and colors and like perspectives into this if I'm not kind of controlling every part of it. So that's really where a lot of that came from.
Okay, cool. So what were how was it with gaining support from family or close friends when you started this?
It took a little bit. My dad, I can honestly say, was always very supportive of the music, mainly because of the fact that, like, I think for him, he just saw that I was really passionate about something, and he didn't really care that what it was, so long as I did it, like, as I do it 100%. Like,
of course.
Whereas my mom, naturally being my mom, and I'm her baby, she was like, you need to go to college and you need to get a stable job and da-da-da. And, like, there was definitely some validity to that, but I just knew I wouldn't be happy doing that. So it took her a little longer to kind of, like, jump on the bandwagon. But once she started seeing me perform and started seeing people's reaction to what I do, and then just, like, I think hearing the music, I think it really opened her mind to, like, whoa, like, this is, like, who am I to tell this kid, like, this is what it's supposed to be? And I think also, like, even now, the older I get, she says it herself, like, when she looks back at me as a kid, she's like, yeah, this is kind of like always what you were going to do. You know what I mean? So I think it took her a little while, but now I can gratefully say that both of them are very supportive of what I do. My mom especially, she's the number one person. It's like, I want my 10% when you blow up. That's all I care about, just 10%. So
of course, yeah. mom's gonna get taken care of.
Yeah, mom's in her 10%, so she's big on that. But yeah, it took them a while, definitely. And like the rest of my family is, I think, kind of neutral on it. I think that they think it's cool, like especially the younger cousins, they all love it. But a lot of my aunts and uncles, I don't think they really understand it, or understand what I do or the level at which I do it. So
because to them, they don't see the business side.
Yeah, they
don't
just
understand
see
how
they don't understand how I make
music.
money. They don't understand how any of this works. They're just like, I see you doing rapping, okay, and like the reaction I get from most people, I would say over the age of 50 is like, even though I rap slow, it's still too fast for them. You know what I mean? Like a lot of people, like, they're not even trying to listen to rap. They're not even giving it the time of day. So they just see me rapping. They're like, so you're a rapper. And I'm like,
and for some reason too, just hearing the word rapper or hip hop, they assume like you're just gonna talk about sex, money, drugs.
They assume like exactly that
you're cussing.
Right, that I'm gonna be a certain kind of artist. And it's like, don't get me wrong, like hip hop, what's beautiful about hip hop is that it is so multicultural, it is so multifaceted. It's just like the culture it comes from the Black and Hispanic culture, where you have so many different kinds of people from so many different places who look so many different ways. So that's what's the cool thing about hip hop, is that you can have what's considered to be a hip hop artist, which is some of these more trap, whatever, leaning artists like an NBA Youngboy or whatever. But you could also have a Tyler the Creator. And you can also have, a Tizo Touchdown, who kind of falls under hip hop, but is doing something very different in the hip hop sphere, So there's a lot of just, I think, opportunity right now more than ever to kind of like break what that is. And so I do sometimes, I'm not gonna lie, sometimes I do get a little frustrated when people say rapper, because I'm gonna be honest, it feels like a sub. Like Ye said it once. He's like, when people say rapper, it's just another word for the N-word. Like, it's like, so sometimes I feel like when they say rapper, it's like you're trying to demean or diminish what I do, because I don't just rap. But at the same time, it's like, I don't get them to understand. I don't expect them to understand the nuance of what I do. So for all intents and purposes, sure, I'm a rapper. This is easier that way.
And I know, obviously, you just got married not too long ago.
Yeah,
How's your wife been?
Oh, Kelsey's like the number one. When I first met her, very, very, like within the first few days of us meeting each other, I was very clear that this is what I wanted to do and this is what I was passionate about. And she was just like, okay, like she didn't even question it. And to be honest with you, like that was probably one of the moments where I was like, yeah, this is the person.
That's amazing.
This is the person I'm gonna marry, because like I had expressed my desire and my dreams to other previous women in previous relationships, but I think a combination of me just being so young and again them just not understanding it, they just never really were super supportive or just didn't get it. They just like, they're like, oh, so you just want to be a rapper? They're like, what, fuck bitches? And it's like, no, like I want to be a artist, because I want to be able to do what I love with the people that I love and tour the world and do all this. And if I'm single and I'm able to get that out of it, cool, but that's like not the main purpose,
Exactly.
So she was like the first person to really like understand what I was trying to do and the legacy that I'm trying to build, and more than anything, just understands like the responsibility of it. And just like the example I give sometimes is like in Hamilton, his wife ends up being the person who like kind of ends up continuing his story and ends up opening an orphanage and doing all this crazy stuff like in his honor. And I've always like said to her, I'm like you're that person for me. Like I know that if knock on wood, something ever happened, like she would continue the storyline, she would continue the legacy, and that's like something that's invaluable. Someone who really believes and truly like sees what I'm trying to do and doesn't doubt it. I couldn't put a price tag on that. My family is very supportive, but not like her. It's different.
Of course, and your partner, I mean, she's gonna be there for you all the time. You know? And that's
she
why
keeps me grounded.
Like I tell myself all the time, I'm very appreciative of having a partner with me that supports me, that knows that what I want to do is what I want to do, and regardless, I would always find a way to make money. And still keep doing my passion as long as I can find a balance within both.
Right.
And then that keeps your parents happy in a way too, because they see that you're just still making money, you're still surviving, but you're still also following this passion that you want to do.
Well, and I think that's what it's about. It's about that balance, because I don't think it's responsible to just be like, I'm gonna quit my job tomorrow and pursue this thing. Like,
of course,
if you feel like that's what you need to do, then I can't tell you what to do. But I just don't think it's a responsible way to go about things. I think the smart way is, hey, you do maybe have some kind of a part-time, full-time job, and that pays your bills, but it whatever little bit you can scrounge from that is you put it aside towards this passion.
And just plan,
plan
ahead of time,
and understand that it takes time. Nobody. I mean, I'm sure there are some people who they blow up in a year, 2 years, whatever. But it's like, how many of those people are still around the next year versus the people who spend maybe 10 years grinding at this one craft. And then when they do finally get that big break, it's, they are able to make the most out of that break. You know what I mean? They're actually able to turn it into something. I think a great example that you would understand is the boys from Raka or whatever with Talk to Me. Like being able, you do YouTube for so many years to a point that it's at this level that now you can do a movie. You know what I mean? And you can do it and get it pushed by such a huge people or, you know, production company like A21 or A24, whatever it is. So I think it's just like, that's a testament to it. It's like, it's just whether or not you're willing to put that time in.
Definitely. And it helps a lot when you're able to really put your foot where your mouth is. I don't know if that's the phrase.
I didn't put your money where your mouth is.
Put your money where your mouth is. Yeah, it's like
right.
you're actually putting in the work to doing
Yes.
something instead of just saying you're gonna do something and not do it within the next, you know, week or two. So like it's very important, and I like to tell this myself, and I let other people know too. Like, you know, just, you know, if this is something that you truly want to do, you know, plan it out how you want to do it. Yeah. Don't just say you want to do it and then just try to attempt to do it. Yeah. Because you're going to be basically tripping over yourself. You're going to be making mistakes.
You're going to waste your own time, money, and resources. And most people don't have that in any of those things in excess. You know what I mean? So it's like, you know, like even with me, with doing music, you know, and even with you and I, like, a big part of what I do is like trying to make sure that I over communicate to people what I expect and like the level of like dedication that being a musician takes. And it's like, for some people that is all they want to do, but for some people it's just a form of exercise, it's a therapy, it's just something they do like as in addition to something else that they're passionate about. And there's nothing wrong with either one of those two things, but it's knowing where it falls and understanding where it falls is super important to being able to enjoy the process of doing it. Because if you're doing it because you're like, oh, I'm just trying to blow up or whatever, like that's cool. Or if you're just doing it because you're like, oh, well, I just want to feel included or whatever, it's like, that's cool too. But those things aren't enough. Like when it comes down to it, like, are you willing to sacrifice for this? No. Then okay, that's fine. But if you are, then like that's a different conversation, you know? And I think that being able to have that discernment is really hard for people. But I think the best creatives are able to say, yeah, I like this thing, but I really love this. So I think I'm going to focus on this. And if I can get to do this other thing with that, then great. But like my main thing is this.
Oh, yeah, know? Definitely. Like I can say, like, even speaking for myself, like it's when you're trying to do multiple different things, it can be very hard. It can be very stressful wanting to do multiple things, but knowing that your focus and your attention's on one thing, and then figuring out some way to put the other on the other side. You know, like you're pouring so much into one cup. Yes. You barely have enough for the other cup. So like. And I can like speak for myself again. Like it can be hard, you know. I love making music, but I'm so focused on doing the photography and the video. That's my dream.
And I think a big part of it is like they're all kind of in the same realm. So it's very like, I think people who aren't in video or in music wouldn't understand. But I think when you work with music, you naturally become interested in visual because they kind of go together. And then when you're doing visual stuff, you start to think about music because it's all part of storytelling. That's really what the core of it all is, that we all love stories. We all love to tell stories. Now, how we tell those stories, whether that's on film, whether that's through music, whether that's through painting, is, you know, completely different. But at the core of it is that storytelling. I think that because we love to storytell, we see that, oh, there's multiple ways for me to tell a story. That maybe not just my story, but the story of my family or my culture or something that I went through or something that my friend of mine went through. So I think that's really what it is at the core of it, is that we love to tell stories. And because of that, sometimes it's hard to figure out how and when to tell that story. You know, like, is this better to be said in a song, or does this need a full 10-minute film? You know, like...
Have you ever, I don't remember if we've talked about this, but have you ever considered trying going to college for like music theory?
I've thought about going back to school for music quite a bit. I'm not going to lie. I've thought about it in the sense of that way, where like going back and learning music theory. I've thought about going back for music business or just business marketing. And I think the only reason I've never pulled the trigger is every time I think about it, I'm like, well, I could do that. I could spend my time, money, and energy doing that. Or I could spend that same time, money, and energy traveling more, putting myself in different studios, putting myself in different networking events, right? Things. Because everything that I know now is all self-taught. Like I never went to an official class to learn how to make beats or how to do any of this stuff. It was just me watching YouTube and then a lot of practice. So I think at this point, like, I do see the value in it and I've considered it, but I don't know if I've found the right reason to go back. And I think that's a big part of it, is that if I am going to go back to school, I'd want to know for sure why. Because otherwise, it'll just feel like a burden. It'll just feel like, why did I sign up for this?
And you want to be able to put in 100% if you're going to go into it, rather than pay, what, tens, thousands of dollars for school, and then it doesn't end up working out.
Because even now, like I have my AA, but I don't use it, you know, and I never really planned to use it. I knew I wasn't gonna use it, so it was kind of like my parents wanted. My dad was like, at least get an AA, so you at least say you have a degree, and I was like, all right, you know, valid.
And that's all that matters.
Yeah, that's all that matters.
You're making other people happy, and you're continuing to pursue your dreams. That's what matters. Okay, cool. Well, let's move on because I like to. Now we're jumping a little bit into the future with this. So you were an artist. Now you are producing your own music. You're producing your own beats. On top of that, you are your own record label.
Yes.
Which is KevSpeakTruth Records.
Yes, sir.
So I want to talk a little bit about that. How did the KevSpeakTruth Records start?
So initially, it started off as, you know, I'm a huge J. Cole, huge Brockhampton fan. I'm a huge fan of these labels or music groups where there is this like kind of family dynamic, and in a sense everybody within that family dynamic feeds itself. So initially I started at KevSpeakTruth Records. Initially it was called 10 Sounds, which the number 10 is like a really big number for my brother and I, and just in my life. And so it started off as 10 Sounds, and then eventually 10 Sounds amalgamated to KevSpeakTruth Records. And that was just like, okay, if I'm KevSpeakTruth, what would be the likely thing to go with that? And at first, it was just like housing for me to put music under in a way. Like, okay, this is me. This is my branding. When you look me up on Apple and on the bottom, it says, you know what I mean? Like that kind of thing. But then as I kind of, I'd always wanted to develop, like I said, like just a team of people. When I moved to Naples and I got the opportunity to start doing that, and I was like, okay, this could be more than just a place for me to make music. This could be a space where it's a platform for these different artists to not only like develop, but to be able to, you know, do their music and get the help that I can offer. And ultimately, like I said, just be like a trampoline for them. Like the whole goal of KevSpeakTruth Records has never been like, oh, these artists are signed to me and they can't do anything else or go anywhere else. It's just knowing that like, okay, I believe in this person. I want to invest in what they're doing and in their artistry. I want to help develop them. So that way when they get the opportunity to go to like a Universal or a Columbia Records or a RCA or whoever, they have all the tools to make the most of that decision. And then on top of that, because I've been a part of the process from day one, it doesn't matter what happens, I'm still going to be okay. You know what I mean? Like the trickle down will come one way or another. Either they're going to bring me there with them, or they're some point or another they're going to need me.
Of course.
So it's kind of just creating that value to where it's like, I'm not relying on my own music. I'm able to do what I love and still be expressive and creative, but in a way that it doesn't carry the same, like with my own music, I put a lot of pressure on myself because it's mine, right? It's like, it's very personal. But when I work with other people, I get to be creative. I get to have fun. And so it was a combination of me being like, okay, I can do this to, one, create a platform for these artists, and two, give me unbridled creative, you know, just like expression, you know what I mean? Being able to work with different people and hear the things that I hear in my head and be like, yo, if you hit this way, it's going to sound crazy. And I do it. And I'm like, fuck.
Yes.
You know, so it's a great
And
feeling.
you have a really good skill with that too.
Yeah.
I like that a producer is willing to be an artist developer.
Well, that's what it was back in the day. Like a real, you know, there's beat makers and there's producers. So like a real producer, like a Timbaland, right? Or like a Diddy, like these are people who, yes, they would maybe have a part in the production and the making of the beat, but they really were more involved in the production of the record. So they would be the one to go in there and say, hey, you know what? Okay, Mary J. Blige, loving the way you're singing this, but I really think we should put Genuine on the background vocals right here. You know what I mean? And that is how we get some of these, you know, incredible records is, you know, even a lot of, especially in R&B, if you go back and listen to a lot of old R&B, a lot of the Tanks and the Genuines, like, the background singers are other famous R&B singers that weren't famous yet, you know? So it was, but they also just knew that the tones were going to sound great. So it's just, that's what a producer was. There was someone who was, Smokey Robinson is a producer, you know? He was somebody who literally would go into a room and say, okay, Michael Jackson, you're going to do this and you're going to hit like this. And if you don't hit like this, it's not going to sound right. So you have to go like this, you know, like that's really what I think I enjoy most. And that's what I would say as a real music producer. But nowadays, what we know producer as is someone who just, you know, programs drums or does whatever, which that is part of it. But I really feel like to call yourself a producer, it's someone who like, no, bro, like you're in the session. Not only are you making the beat, but you're in the session telling them, we need to drop that out. We need to rise here. This needs to happen here with these effects to create this moment, to create this feeling, you know? So that's what I would say.
Okay. That makes sense. That makes sense.
Yeah.
So how many tell me, how many people do you have that's in Speaker Truth Records?
So right now there is 4. So we have Takeoff Burford, we have Boy Paco, No Conflict Kev, and my friend Don Toro. Don is based in California, so Don we don't normally get to talk much about or get to do much with, but mainly just because he's been like on like this massive like how would I describe it, like hoarding. He's just been kind of hoarding a lot of music and like building up a lot of stuff.
Oh wow.
I think kind of just really trying to get ready for a full kind of swing rollout with content and all that stuff. Very, very talented artist. But yeah, those are the main 4 guys, and there's other people that I work with that are like kind of like
come in now and then,
come and go, but they're not as like the main people that I'm focused on. I would say developing. Whereas with those 4 boys, it's I'm in there. We're developing records. We're developing their sound. We're like, okay, you know, how can we take this to the next level? How can we make Takeoff Burford song iconic? How can we make it to where when someone hears it, they're like, oh, this is Takeoff Burford. Oh, this is so and so. Like just off rip. So just little things like that, trying to hone those things in.
That's awesome. Are you still open and considering into allowing other artists to want to join?
Yeah, I think I'm always looking for new people. I think the biggest thing with what I've learned from it is it's just that willingness to commit. It's like if someone wants to do this, I need to know that this is what they want to do and that they can do it 100%. And it's more so because I don't want to waste their time just as much as I don't want to waste my own time.
Of course.
I don't want to tell you, yeah, we're going to do something, and then because I don't feel like you're giving me the time you need, now I can't give you the time that you deserve, if that makes sense. So a lot of it is like, and then also part of it is just my bandwidth. Like sometimes just even with those 4, it's a lot trying to keep track of 4 different people and you know, they're all working on an album or this or that, and we got to shoot this video and this content. So it's a lot to do. I would love, like, my dream, really the next step would be to be able to get like a girl, like a really talented girl artist that can sing, that can write. Doesn't even necessarily need to be able to rap, but just someone who can do that well. I think that's something I would really like to do, just from a songwriting standpoint and from a production standpoint, being able to explore certain topics and ideas that I don't really get to do with the boys.
That'll be cool.
So I would love
add
to
a
do
little
that.
bit of different feel to it too, especially if when there's ever collaboration within the group. You know, the guys have a female singer that adds that, like,
just brings out a different nature, you know? And for me, like, especially being bisexual, it's like being able to talk about just certain, like I said, certain topics and tell certain stories. Like I said, it's all about storytelling, right? So being able to tell certain stories from the lens of a woman or from a feminine perspective is something like I haven't had the opportunity to do yet that I really would love to. So that's like from my mouth to God's ears kind of thing. I would really love to get to do that because I feel like it would challenge me. And then something else I would like to do is work more with some more singer-songwriter artists where it's just guitar, just them singing, working on those kinds of songs where it's like, because there's not as much going on, you're really paying attention to what's being said or what's not being said. So that kind of stuff I think I'd really like to work with.
I think that's really cool. I feel like there has to be a lot of singer-songwriters out here that do stuff like that, because I know you've done one with Shelby before.
Yes,
that amazing two-part album that she made, or EP, or I'm not sure what she
Permanent
calls
and
it.
Cinema, which
Permanent
was written by her dad, rest in peace, which is kind of crazy. So that was cool being able to bring a song to life.
And Cinema was supposed to be by her brother, right?
No, Cinema was by her. She wrote Cinema, yeah.
Oh, nice.
So it was cool. It was like I got to, again, it's one of those moments where you get to be a part of something and help somebody create something that is unique to them. Like getting to make Permanent with her, I was like, you know, we got to, like I said, make a song that her father wrote into real life, you know, and it's something
beautiful.
That he probably would have never guessed would have been able to happen, but the fact that it has happened, it's like now there's just always going to be that bond, there's always going to be that love and that friendship there because of that, because I just consider it an honor, you know. So but yeah, I definitely, like, I worked with Shelby with that, but I want to work with more artists in that way. One of which is the artist I met last night, Jay Godchild, and another artist, Carling.
Oh, yes. Those two are really good. I know those two.
So talented, bro. Just, like, really incredible voices and just really, like, the way that they think. And, yeah, so I just really want to be able to experiment with more of those stuff. And also just from a vocal perspective, as an artist, being able to challenge me to sing in different ways and just approach things differently.
That's amazing. That's amazing.
Yeah.
So I know Speaker Truth Records does have 2 locations when you do your music. You have your home studio, and then you also work at Trackout Studios, located here in Fort Myers.
Yeah.
So How was that experience? How was that interaction getting into Track Out?
So basically what happened was, I'd had SpeakTruth Records for about 2 years, and I had gotten to a point where I felt like I had learned, or I had reached like the creative ceiling of what I could do on my own there. And I knew I needed to be around other engineers and just more artists to just push my talents and my ear for stuff, and my really also my efficiency, being able to be faster at what I was doing. So at the time, it basically came out of one day I was venting to Paco about just feeling frustrated and feeling like, man, like I'm just not making the moves that I feel like I need to. And he basically was like, listen, like you could, like, stop being a bitch, basically. He was like, like you have a lot of friends and people who would be willing to help you if you ask.
Of course.
And one of those people was my friend Hero, who worked at Track Out.
Shout out to Hero.
Yeah, shout out to Hero Saves the World. So I went over to Track Out one day to talk to him about hiring him as my main engineer. And in that conversation, he mentions to me, he's like, hey, we're looking for engineers here. And I was like, well, okay, like, who do I talk to? And so he put me in contact with Kid Quest. And Quest put me in contact with OG. I sent OG this long message. I was like, yo, like, I really like what y'all are doing here, and I would really love the opportunity to be a part of this. And so OG was like, okay, like, he was like, come by next week and let's talk. And from there, I went in for like a mini interview, but it was more like he just wanted to meet me formally, but like he already had heard of my stuff and knew what I did.
That's
and
awesome.
I think Hero spoke very highly of me as well. So when I came in for like that interview, he was already like, yeah, bro, like you're on, like you're welcome to the team. And I basically interned for like 8 or 9 months to learn Pro Tools and kind of get comfortable with being in that kind of studio space. And I've pretty much been there ever since now. Like since August, I've been officially an engineer there. And I love it. It's definitely a challenge. It's very different than being in a home studio because I don't get the opportunity to do as much artist development. But it teaches me a lot about just networking and a lot about, like I said, efficiency and learning how to be like a faster engineer and learning how to capture the idea and get there faster is really important.
And you get more tools to play with too. So.
Right, yeah. We got a lot more analog stuff there, and the equipment's higher end, so it's just a different energy. It's like when you drive your car, right? You might have this little hoopty or whatever, and then you get to drive a rental for a day. You know what I mean? It's like, whoa, like this is how the other side lives, And sometimes that's how it feels when I get to be in that studio. Is I get to just, because I know the equipment is so good, I get that ability to just be creative and just be in the moment and just focus on getting the best take I can from that artist, and then putting whatever sauce I want on top. So it just makes the process easier. And I've learned that that's really like what a lot of these engineers, while they do like on a bigger level, the reason that they have been able to do what they do, other than obviously the talent they have, is that you are recording through $30,000 worth of equipment. So it's a lot easier, but also a lot easier to fuck it up. But it's a lot easier to do it right when it already sounds that good,
That's awesome. So how would someone that would want to record it with KevSpeakTruth, or I guess someone that wants to work with someone and Track Out, what's the best way to contact them?
So with me, with SpeakTruth Records specifically, everything right now is pretty much via like DM and via my broadcast channel, Truth and Crew. So usually I share my schedule in there, depending on what availability I have. And then also just a lot of just like people just hit me up directly, just like word of mouth or meeting me through other events and stuff. With Track Out, we have a website. You can go on there and you can book. You can choose which engineer you want to book with, whether it's myself, OG, Brian, or Pizzo. We all kind of focus in different genres of music, but we can all kind of do a little bit of everything. I would say OG he's the most seasoned engineer of all of us, but he's mainly more of like the trap kind of hip hop kind of lane. Same thing with Pizzo. But Brian and I are more on the alternative pop. We can do hip hop too. We can do trap, but we get a little bit more on the experimental side. So it kind of gives you an opportunity to work with that. And we're even actually trying to get another engineer, like a daytime engineer, and some more interns and stuff, and just kind of starting to build out a roster of people there so we can be able to not only like open and be open 24/7, but just to be able to provide every opportunity for any person to be able to go and check out what we do there.
That's awesome. Yeah. So make sure you guys, if you guys want to hit up KevSpeakTruth himself, you guys can hit up on Instagram.
Yep.
KevSpeakTruth.
All one word.
And he does have a link on his bio that you guys can be able to set up an appointment with him. So make sure you guys hit him up because he's got some really creative skills and he knows how to. He knows how to spit some out for y'all.
I'm pretty good. I'm not gonna lie.
It's I think I mean it like you are probably one of the most talented producers I've met so far out here. That it makes music himself.
Yeah.
Like, not a lot of producers or artists can do stuff like that. I mean, obviously there's some that are learning to get into that wave, but you have a very unique sound when it comes to what you create and what your voice is, which is amazing. And I always say this all the time, but I always appreciate everything that you've done for me.
Yeah. Love you, bro.
You've done just watching you, grow and do things. And it's just, it got very overwhelming for me in the beginning, and I was like, wow, oh my gosh, I really have a lot to step up with. But it's a learning process for me, and I hope for myself that I will find that moment to get back into it.
Well, I think for me, like, that's why I enjoy what I do, because it's not just about developing artists, it's developing friendships, it's developing relationships. Like, the cool thing about doing music is it forces you to be authentic and vulnerable if you let it, if you allow it to. And in that vulnerability, you're going to have difficult moments, but in my opinion, I think it breeds opportunity for great friendships, because it's like, oh, you're being vulnerable. Okay, I'm going to be vulnerable. Now we're both being honest about how we feel about this. And now that just made a really awesome song because of it. So I think that's a big part of it. And I think, there's a lot of artists and producers. I'll give an example of Phineas, who's Billie Eilish's brother, and Benny Blanco. So Phineas and Benny Blanco have been friends for I don't know how many years, probably 10 years. And then the first song they ever produced together was Justin Bieber's Love Yourself.
Oh, wow.
So, like, 10 years of friendship, never made a song together, and then they make that song.
And then who would have thought that Benny Blanco ended up stealing Justin Bieber's
right? But it's just like, but it just goes to show, like, would that have happened if they started making music immediately in their first year of friendship? Probably not. It's because they had so many years of friendship that, like, being in the studio was just anything. It was normal for them.
Exactly.
They were able to be authentic.
And I'm sure they had to obviously figure out their own path. They had to find their own sound, their own music.
Right. But it bred the opportunity for them to come back together in that way. And I think that's really what it's about. It's like I said, developing friendships and relationships, because, like, you never know. You never know. Maybe right now it's not the time, but it doesn't mean it won't be the time 5 years from now.
Exactly.
And you just never know who you meet and how all that stuff plays together. You meet somebody and their barber's cousin's sister's friend is friends with this A&R who happened to be in the car with her when she played one of your songs, and now you got 18 different labels trying to sign you. Like, that's usually how it works. It's very rare. I mean, obviously we have social media now, so people blow up off of TikTok and stuff, but the real the real big artists, it's a situation like that. It's like this long-winded, like, if they had gone left when they went right, it wouldn't have happened kind of thing. And I think that's a big part of it, is just trusting, like, it's all meant. If it's meant to happen, it'll happen. And I've taken pride in knowing that every person I've had an opportunity to work with musically, I think I've been my most authentic and transparent self. So I can walk away from it knowing, like, I have a friend in that person, and, like, I don't have to worry about that because I was myself. You know what I mean? And if they didn't enjoy it, then hey, like, they just didn't enjoy it. You know what I mean?
That's awesome.
So,
and I'm glad you actually brought up the TikTok thing, because now I want to jump into this other segment, this topic that I'm very curious about, and I know you can relate to this. Is being an artist doesn't mean obviously creating music, but now you have to basically be an independent artist. You have to create your own content to get your music out there. Yeah. So, and you yourself have been pushing a shit ton of content. Yeah. Excuse my language, guys, but a shit ton of content. So what is your perspective as an artist, but learning to become a content creator now?
Wow. I mean, I'm going to be honest. I think I was definitely one of those people who was reluctant to start getting on TikTok and these different platforms. And it was mainly because I was afraid, like most people, I was afraid of making a fool of myself. I was afraid of, like, looking stupid. But what I've learned with it is the reason that content is so powerful is because, like, and this is just my brain thinking of it now, but, like, your Instagram feed is like your own personal magazine, right? Mm-hmm. So it's like back in 20 years ago, if I wanted to learn about Led Zeppelin, the only way I knew about Led Zeppelin, anything about them, was I would have to go buy Rolling Stone and read the interview that was maybe 2 pages long, and then that would be all I knew about them. And then the only other information I'd find out was I went to the concert, or I bought the album or the vinyl, and then in the credits of the song, there's maybe some little random facts, right? Mm-hmm. But now, and because of that, that would make someone fall in love with an artist, and there was that kind of mystery. Now that mystery's kind of gone. So And because that mystery is gone, it makes it to where, like, why would someone take an interest other than just you constantly kind of being in front of them? So in today's market, you have to be, in my opinion, willing to be persistent because of the simple fact that these algorithms, number one, don't show what you do to everybody. So I could make a post at 9 o'clock in the morning, but it may only show it to 10 people.
Mm-hmm.
And then by 4 o'clock, nobody even knows I posted unless they are going out of their way to go to my page and see that. So it's little things like that. It's like, unfortunately, it does force you to have to kind of be in front of everybody. But I also think it's teaching you marketing. It's teaching you like I think a lot of people think like, oh, once you get signed, that's it. It's like, no, like once you get signed, now you got to work even harder because now you have to recoup. And it's
exactly.
like, so it's a lot of it is, I think, really because we have social media now, there's not that need to get signed to a label or whatever. But now all the work and the responsibility that the label did hold, now that falls on you.
It goes straight to you.
It's straight to you, you know? And so it for some people, they thrive in it. Some people sink in it. I think a lot of people overthink it because they think content needs to look or be displayed a certain way. And what I've learned is like, it really doesn't matter how it's displayed so long as it's consistent. If you are consistently putting it in front of people, the rest is really just...
And just really, you just got to put it out there.
Yeah, like, take a chance. You won't know. You won't know till you try because it's like they say all the time, like, you're your worst critic. So like, you can't tell yourself, oh, I'm not a good writer or I'm not a good actor or I'm not a... Someone else can tell you because they're the outside looking in, but who are you to tell you, you know? So I think that's a big part of it. And that's natural. We, as humans, no one likes to be told, like, you sucked. Like, that wasn't good. But it feels 18,000 times better when you do the thing and people are like, wow, I really like that. That was really cool. And you're like, oh, whoa.
And regardless of the fact, like, whether they're talking crap about you or not,
they're talking
about you.
They took time. They took time out of their day to go and comment under your post. Which,
literally.
Like, to some people, like, that may seem like nothing, but, like, when's the last time you took time out of your day to sit there and actually comment something on someone's post? Like, you usually only do it unless you genuinely care. It either bothered you so much that you felt a need to comment, or you loved it so much that you felt a need to comment, you know? So, I mean, it's a win-win in my opinion, but I'm also someone who, from a very young age, I was willing to be on stage and in front of people. And so I think at this point, when it came time to start doing content, it was like, oh, this is just the same thing I've already been doing, but in real life, now I'm just doing it for the internet.
Exactly, because you have to basically project a bit. You have to be a little over exaggerating.
Yeah,
you have to. You got to be comfortable, like I said, letting hundreds, thousands of people see who you are.
Yeah.
I know one thing they say that they love to see your personality. They like to see what you do other than music.
Yes.
Because there's other ways that your fans can connect to you.
Right.
Yeah, they feel related to you.
One of the biggest lessons I think I've ever learned in this is like people become fans of artists because of two reasons. Either they see something in themselves in that artist or they see something they wish they could be. So if you are posting... Like, I like creepypasta, which is like internet horror, right? So there are certain songs I've recently where I've written about that, and I've never written about it before, and I'm like, you know what? But this is like, I think this is cool. Like, and somebody who watches creepypasta stuff is gonna be like, yo, I got that reference.
Exactly.
Like, that's cool. You like creepypasta? I like creepypasta. So I think it's just, for me, it's like I'm interested in how do I create super fans, and like for someone to become a super fan, the music isn't gonna be enough. Like, you could like the music, but if you know that you and I like the same color, or we like the same movie, or we like there is this weird like parasocial relationship that starts to happen where you feel like we're friends. You feel like you know me on a personal level, which is great.
Yeah.
And to a certain extent, it's great because it provides that opportunity to now I can leverage that. I can do things with it. But it's also very scary because it's like back to that responsibility aspect. Like, what are you teaching to people? What are you disseminating to these people? What are you leading them to do? And understanding the responsibility that comes with that, you know.
Definitely, and I feel like too with because I know for me, learning. Obviously, I'm on kind of both parts of the spectrum a bit.
Right.
I'm a little bit of the artist, but I'm more of the video creator side. So like I know, there's a lot of artists out here that tend to find these excuses of wanting to create content. And they're always saying like, oh, bro, but I can't do this. I have to have the best of the best quality, this and that. And like, don't get me wrong. Like, I love it. I don't mind if someone wants to pay me for it because that's great. I make money out of it. But at the same time, like, I still support people that want to do what they want to do.
Yeah.
And I even if they can't afford me, I tell them, hey, I'll give you some advice.
Yeah.
Use your phone. That's all you need.
And quality is subjective. That's a big part of it too. Like for most people, bro, like the average iPhone shoots in 4K.
Exactly.
If you do it, even 30 frames per second, 60, like it's gonna look pretty good.
Of course.
You know what I mean? It's gonna look compared to somebody shooting on a beat up old, whatever.
Like yeah, you're not gonna get the nice creamy bokeh and all that.
Whatever, but you make it
have
work.
something. Yeah.
And something I tell the boys all the time, I tell people is like, all right, somebody like you, right? You do film, you do whatever. You may not know that someone, you may be like, okay, somebody may be hesitant to post content, and it's because they're like, man, like I just wish I had X person to do X job. Mm-hmm. But because you're not willing to post, X person with X job doesn't know you need someone to do X job. So if you're willing to make a video of you making content, maybe the first time it doesn't, but maybe the 15th time you posted, somebody who makes film and does something like, hey, bro, like I see what you're doing. I see what you're trying to do. I would love to help. I would love to work. And
it's connections,
And so it's like, I told the boys the other night, it's like if you miss 100% of shots you don't take, right? So it's like, if I'm putting up 30 points a game, every game, the whole season, by the last game of the season, I'm putting up 90 points a game because I've just been repeatedly taking the chance. Maybe I took 400 shots, but I still made 90 points. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
So that's all that matters is that 90 times I made it go in. So it's little things like that I think people struggle with, and like I said, a lot of it is social media. We're playing the comparison game every single day, so. You may think, oh, well, I think this content was good, but then you see somebody who does have a team or who does have all this stuff, and you're like, well, my content isn't that. But it's like, it's okay. Like, everybody has to start somewhere.
Exactly. And really, it's the process you want to enjoy. It's not the end goal. You're obviously not going to hope to get a record label right away.
No. You got to have fun with it. I think that's a big part of it. You just got to have fun with it.
It's enjoying the middle parts of everything, the mess ups, the laughs, just having fun, being yourself. And, like, you don't even have to rap to the video.
No.
Like, just do your normal stuff and have your music in the background.
Yeah, and I tell people all the time, like it's almost better if it doesn't have anything to do with your music. It's almost better if it's like, yeah, I went and bought a chicken today. You know what I'm saying? Like, but in the background, you have your song playing. But it's like, it sounds silly, but like somebody out there is going to be like, hey, well, I have chickens.
I like chickens.
I'm going to follow you. You like chickens too. And then they find out, 2 months later that you make music. And they're like, oh, cool, you make music? Awesome. And then, and at that point, because they're already a fan of you, even if the music is garbage, they're going to be like, well, I like him, so I'm going to press play.
And they'll support you regardless.
And that's what we're living in now is be like the content creator thing is you have people who are musicians who happen to be content creators, but now you have these content creators who are like happenstancing to become musicians because they see the value in, well, people are already subscribing to my video. What would happen if I made a song? What would happen if I made a music video?
Yes.
What would happen if I made a merch line? And then it just kind of explodes. And I think a great example of that is like Dev Lemons, who like Dev is really popular on YouTube for like music related content, but she also makes her own music and leverages the content that she makes into that music. So maybe it's not, in some ways you could say, well, maybe that's not the greatest idea, but I mean, if it works, it works, and who's to tell her that it's not working if clearly it is?
Seriously, and you're regardless, you're trying something different.
Yeah.
Like hell, there's a filmmaker that I watch and that I admire. He does mainly films.
Yeah.
But he makes music videos. Like he's done music videos for himself, even if they're not serious music videos.
Yeah.
Like,
I think you showed me some of this stuff.
Yeah. Sam Newton.
Yeah.
Stuff like that. Obviously, he's got the big quality and everything, but he does it for fun. Yeah. That's what matters, And
there's also a willingness to learn. Like, I think someone that, I don't know if you put me on to him, but Adrian, oh my God, it's Adrian or whatever. I know you've liked some of his videos, but like, I think he does a great job of like, he'll show people like how he does certain shots and stuff. And like, everything he does is basically, for the most part, is vertical content. So there was a video he put the other day where he was like, this is how I shoot this content and this is why I shoot it and I do this kind of lighting and all these little things. And it's like, that willingness to put it out there. Now I'm seeing it. I'm gonna take a chance and try it, and someone else is like, "Oh, okay, he took a chance." And it's just, like I said, it's that ability to just be like, be authentic, be vulnerable, take a chance on yourself. You know what I mean? But like, if you don't ever take that chance, you can't sit here and really say like, "Oh, it was never meant to be," or be mad at somebody else because they were just willing. That's really what it comes down to a lot of times. Is there's a great video I saw the other day where it was like this guy was like, he's like, I have $100 in my hand right now. He's like, who wants this $100? First person to do something, or first person to come up and grab it gets it. And no one got up except for one lady. And he's like, okay, now before you walk away, why did you come up? She's like, because I just thought I might have a chance of getting it. He's like, that's the point. You know what I mean? Like, most people aren't willing to get up. They'll be like, But if the person who is, that's the moment because they were willing to try. So I think it's I think that's the best thing you can do at this point is just try because you really don't know.
I love that.
Yeah.
Damn, because that was gonna lead into my question of like, what type of advice obviously would you give to someone that wants to start?
The best advice I can give is figure out your intention. I think intention is everything. Knowing why you're doing something is the most important thing in the world. If that intention is I want to make money, cool. Be more specific. Is your intention like, okay, I want to be able to make enough money to take care of my mom and my family? That's realistic. You know, I want to be able to be, you know, the biggest artist in the planet. Okay, what does that look like? You know what I mean? Or if it's, you know, I want to be able to touch 1 million people with my music or my art
or
my
tour.
film.
You know?
I want to tour. Like everybody
how is that gonna happen?
Right. You know, and I think that's a big part of it. Is a lot of people go into this not knowing why they're doing it, other than just, oh, I like it. Because like that's cool. I like the idea of exercise. I don't like doing exercise. You know what I mean? But I do it because I'm like, this is good for me.
Exactly.
And it's the same idea. It's like you can tell, like a lot of people that I meet, they say, oh, I want to do music. I'm like, okay, why? Oh, why? I like writing songs. Okay, why? Like what it like? They're deeper than that. And it seems like it can be a simple answer as like, oh, it's this. But I really think the best artists are constantly diving even further into that why and figuring out like the core of it. And once you figure that out, I think it makes everything a lot easier. It gives you the discernment to know how to move and what decisions to make because everything falls back to that why.
Exactly. Now, do you think that with AI coming out, do you feel like this could also help a lot of artists?
I think AI is like with anything, right? When the internet came out, people were like, "Oh no, this is gonna be the end of," and it was. In some ways, it was. It was the end of certain jobs and certain ways of life. But it was also the boom of a lot of different ways of life and a lot of different jobs. So I think AI is the same thing. I think right now it's so early in its existence, and I think what's scary about it is it can't really be regulated, and I think that's really why it's so dangerous. It's not that AI inherently I think is the problem. I think it's just we don't know what to do with it. We don't know how to control it. So to your point, I think for a lot of upcoming artists, there is a lot of value in using AI to teach you how to write something or you know, even just kind of workshopping an idea or whatever. I think the moment that it becomes an issue is when it's like, okay, now I'm basically using this to create the art. Someone said it like today, it's like you have people who are creatives who are using AI to make things easier. But then you have people who are on the opposite end where like they're using AI to be creative because they're not inherently creative. It's not saying that they're like just like a vapid empty space, but they're just not naturally.
They want that shortcut.
Right. They want to be able to be like, oh, I could draw a picture instead of actually learning how to draw the picture. And it's not, again, I don't think there's anything wrong with either side. I just think that that's the reality of what it is. So because of that, now it creates a situation where as a creator, you're competing with people who aren't really doing it for the love, aren't really doing it for the passion. And so it does discourage you and makes you feel like, well, why am I even trying when this person over here is selling millions of NFTs of fake art?
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Like, but I think it's just, you know, it's like what any industry, when it first comes out, there's going to be people who saturate it and manipulate it and do whatever. But eventually it'll die down. And I think really what's happening right now is the best part about it is it's pushing people in the opposite direction musically. I think that's why we're seeing a rise in bands like the Sacred Souls and like these more like real raw guitar playing, soul music, real raw analog sounds, because people want something real. They don't want to hear something processed. They don't want to hear a computer. They don't want to see a hologram. They want to see a real person. So I think that it's creating an interesting divide. You know, there's some people who and it's with everything. There's always going to be like the right, and then there's like the left punk option, right? Or whatever it is. So it's like most people are going to go towards AI, and the punk people are going to be like, nah, I want to see like a real guy sweating on stage. I'm going to go to that show before I go to a VTuber show. Do you know what I mean? Like, but both of them are still valuable for different reasons.
So there's another thing, and I know this is going to be probably more like on the bad side of AI, and I know you've seen it too, but people have been now using AI to generate like a song.
Yes.
Or they'll use artists' voice.
Yeah.
In generating that. Like
Yeah.
that whole trend that happened with Drake.
Yep.
Doing different music.
Yeah.
Like that's just crazy.
It
right?
is crazy.
Like
it is crazy. But I mean,
like imagine you having to make a song and you got Drake's voice on your track. Like
making out the hood, boys. Making out the hood with this one. I mean, I think it is scary because it is like it's intellectual property, right? So it's like what creates value in something is its exclusivity, is the fact that you can't get it everywhere else. So when you're able to essentially like copy that, it does make it kind of scary. But again, I think if I was an artist like that, if I was Drake, I would just be like, okay, I would listen to what the best AI versions of me are, and I would just make that song because people already want that song. You know what I'm saying? Like,
right.
And if AI wrote it, who am I stealing from? Nobody. So I would just make the song.
It's his voice anyway.
It's his voice anyway. You know what I mean? Like, if anything, like, if I was even like a songwriter or someone like not someone who makes music, but someone who's a songwriter, I would do that for demos. I would sing it myself. If I wrote a song for Justin Bieber, I would sing the song and then have AI make me into Justin Bieber and send that track to Justin Bieber. So I'd be like, yo, I wrote this. So he can hear where it could possibly go. Because a lot of times, that's how it happens now is I write a song for, let's say you're Justin Bieber or you're whoever, right? I write a song for you. You're hearing me sing that song in what I think would be the way you would sing it. And sometimes you're going to hear it and be like, okay, I see it. And then sometimes you're going to be like, I don't know. I don't think I hear it. And it's not because the song isn't good, but it's just because it's not translating. But if they hear their own voice doing it, they might be like, you know what? I could do that, and I could do it better. Because at the end of the day, right now at least, the AI technology we have, it's good, but it's still
not
rough.
fully there.
It's not fully there. But give it a few more years, maybe even a year. It's gonna be pretty damn good. You know what I'm saying?
I wonder if like, because I know we say like AI is gonna end up taking a lot of our jobs.
Yeah.
Like, and I feel like the one of the scariest things for an artist is that AI could easily take away the artist's passion for making music.
Yes.
Because then they're not gonna want to write music as much. They're just gonna type in a few things.
Right.
Boom. I have
and
a
then
song.
it's like again like it because then at that point inherently to a certain extent music is competitive, right? But it's like, how do I compete with a freaking computer?
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Like, how do I compete with something that is literally using an quantifiable amount of resources from all the best songs from all the best artists in the world? It just might make a song better than me because it has just more things to pull from. So I think it is a really weird situation, especially with like sync licensing and like music for like YouTube videos and stuff like that. I think that AI plays a very tricky role there because a lot of that stuff, it's more passive listening. It's not me going out of my way to look up the song. It's like, oh, this is just a song to accompany the visual that I'm seeing. I'm only hearing the song because Kim Kardashian just walked into Nobu. I'm not hearing the song because I want to hear the song. So I think that's like where it gets kind of worrisome. But again, then it comes down to people in those spaces knowing, okay, well, how can I use this to my advantage? How can I create the music using AI so that way I am still playing the game, but I'm not letting the game play me essentially in the process.
That makes sense. I like that. What time are we on? Hour and 4 minutes? Okay, we can probably start wrapping up.
Cool.
Because it's getting that time. Alrighty, Kev, I'm trying to think. Any other advice that you would like to give out to any artist out there that's upcoming or wanting to figure out their craft or just,
I think, like I said, just figure out your why. And I think, figure out your why, and then also like learn about the things around what you do. Don't just learn about what you want to do. So the example I give people all the time is like, I make music, right? I want to be a musician, but there's millions and jillions and billions of people who want to be a musician. So what's another way for me to get in that room? Well, I could be a music producer. I could be an engineer. I could be whatever. So it's, I think, learning, like, if your target is this, focus on hitting all the things around that target because eventually you're going to hit the bullseye. But you have a lot higher chances of winning with all those shots versus trying to get the 100 points by hitting bullseye. If you accumulated 500 points by going everywhere else, what does it matter how long it took you to get there? So I think that's a big part of it is that intention, and just learn everything you can, like learn every part of the business that you want to do. And it just makes you more valuable. It makes it less likely for you to get, screwed over when you're working with people, because you actually know what it takes to get things done and the value of what it is. And that way, when someone says like, oh, this is going to take me, 5 weeks, you'd be like, yeah, no, it should only take you 2 weeks, but all right. You know what I mean? And you kind of could call people on their bullshit. And then also at the same time be like, okay, well, if it doesn't take you that long, then it needs to be at a certain level. So I think that's the best thing that anyone can do, whether it's music, videos or art or whatever. Learn everything about it. And then the last thing I would say is steal from your favorite artists. So like, find those people who inspire you in that thing. Take notes about why they inspire you. Take screenshots, take photos. And when you go to create your own stuff, use that as reference. Like the greatest artists know how to effectively steal. And if you steal effectively, then it's creativity. If you steal ineffectively, then it's plagiarism. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah.
Yeah, and just keep in mind, he doesn't mean actually steal.
Yeah, no. I mean
style, but steal like
the idea.
The
like,
ideas.
Put it through your like. There's a great quote from this old interview where it said Basquiat used to say like, inspiration is not inspiration. It's just your idea going through my new mind.
Exactly.
So it's like, when I say dog, everyone's gonna come up with a different picture in their head of what the dog looks like, right? So like, but it's still a dog. You know what I mean? But because you're gonna see it differently than I will, the art you would make based off of that word is gonna be different than what I would make. And that's the value in it, is taking these things that you're inspired by and reworking them and reformatting them, so that way when people see it, other people who are fans of that thing are gonna be like, I see what you did there with that reference in that shot. That reminds me of this one movie. I really like that. I really like this music video now, because you did that one thing that related to this one thing. So I think that's what it's about. I think it's and that's the power. If you can, like I said earlier in this, is that familiarity comes from knowing how to steal like an artist, which is a book by Austin Kleon that I'd recommend. And it's just those three things. So intention, learn everything about your business or your niche, and then learn how to effectively steal from other people and create it in your own way.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. Alrighty. Last, anything coming up? Any events?
So I have an album out right now, Truth Be Told. It's out on even.biz/truth-b-told. This is like a really big album for me. It's got a whole bunch of my friends on it.
I'll add the link into the bio down. So
I have a show March 22nd over at Trackout Studios for Truth Be Told, and I have a show March 23rd over at Neogenomics Lab over in Fort Myers for Relay for Life. And yeah, just be on the lookout. I'm dropping a whole bunch of music and content. Really trying to like kind of flood it this year, so that's been my main thing.
That's awesome. And then if you guys are interested in checking out these events that Kev is having, you guys are welcome to check him out on, like I said, KevSpeakTruth on Instagram.
At KevSpeakTruth, all
and
lowercase.
Just hit him up, ask him about these events. Tell him you want to come out to support, and maybe you get to meet him, you might get to learn from him, and you might possibly get to work with him. You never know. Anything else? Go ahead and share all of your handles, whatever you want to.
Yeah, so you can find me at KevSpeakTruth on all platforms. On TikTok, I think it's at KevSpeakTruth official, but it's at KevSpeakTruth on all platforms, all lowercase. Don't hesitate to comment, like, subscribe, send me a message. I'm usually very, very, very friendly, unless it's like really early in the morning and I haven't smoked yet. Sometimes I'm a little cranky baby at that time, but other than that, usually really great. So contact me, and even if you just want advice on where to go with something you're passionate about, like I love helping people with that and kind of helping them figure that out and go for that kind of stuff. So yeah,
that's beautiful.
Yeah,
you guys always manifest your truth. Remember,
that.
Speak your truth no matter what.
Yeah,
and yeah, that's about it.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you, Kev Speaks Truth. I appreciate you, man.
Swag.
Very grateful for you to be here. You guys, thank you for watching the Passion Project. You guys can check me out on Passion Doers on Instagram. YouTube, if you guys want to see the visuals. I am on Spotify and iHeartRadio. Still cannot seem to figure out the Apple podcast, but I will figure something out for you guys. You guys can follow me on the Daniel Ortiz to check out my personal content, film by Daniel Ortiz for my business. And just stay tuned, because I will be having more amazing guests. I'll be making some short films that will have my boy Kev Speaks Truth that is in it as well. And who knows, I might be making some more music in the future too. So stay tuned, and be sure you guys guys hit that like, subscribe, and I will see you guys in the next episode.
Pay for the